Part 2. The nourisher of all digestion, sleep, began to wink upon them. Drinking deep, he said, and heavy toil and slumber call. And with a yawning mouth he kissed them all, saying, to bed, it is the hour of my dominion. Blood is in its power. Cherish your blood, he whispered, nature's friend. They thanked him yawningly, and in the end, by twos and threes they wandered off to rest. As sleep ordained, they took it for the best. What dreams they had shall not be told. For me, their heads were full of fumosity. This causes dreams which are of no account, and so they lay and slept until the fount of day filled heaven, all but Candace, for she was temperate and womanly, having kissed her father, and departed, and sought her rest before the evening started. She had no wish to pale her lovely cheek, or greet the morrow colorless and bleak. She slept her beauty sleep, and then awoke, and at her waking in her heart there spoke such joy about her glass and magic ring, that 20 times she felt her color spring. She had dreamed visions from deep impression, made by the magic glass, her new possession. So ere the sun began its upward glide, she called the waiting woman to her side, and told her that it was her wish to rise, like all old women, glad to be as wise as are their mistresses. The crone replied, what, madam, do you mean to go outside this early? Everyone is still asleep. I will arise, she said. I cannot keep in bed or sleep. I want to walk about. Her women called the servants in a rout, and up they got, some 10 or 12 there were, and up rose Candace, as fresh and fair, as bright and ruddy as the early sun, when by some 4 degrees it had begun to rise into the ram. It was no higher. When she was ready, forth at her desire with easy pace, and gowned to greet the May, she lightly went to walk on foot and play. Some 5 or 6 were with her, and content, forth by an alley through the park she went. There was a mist that glided from the earth, and gave the sun a huge and ruddy girth, and yet it was so beautiful a sight that all their hearts were lifted in delight. And with the season and the dawn light springing, and noise of all the birds in heaven singing, for instantly she knew what they were saying, and understood the meaning of their maying. The knot and gist of every tale that's told, if lingered out till all desire be cold in those that listen, and the moments past, savors the less the longer it may last, by fulsomeness of its prolixity. And for that reason it seems to me I ought to reach that knot of which I'm talking, and make an end, and quickly, of her walking. Amidst a tree so parched it seemed to chalk, where Candace came dallying in her walk, above her head a falcon sat on high. This bird began so piteously to cry that all the woods re-echoed her distress, and she had scourged herself with pitiless beating of both her wings. A crimson flood poured down, and painted all the tree with blood, as ever and again with scream and shriek she bent and tore her body with her beak. There is no tiger, no nor cruel beast, that dwells in woods or forest, west or east, but would have wept, if weep indeed it could, for pity of her shrieking as she stood. And never yet has been a man to tell, if only I could describe a falcon well. Of such another bird be fair to see, both in its plumage and nobility of form and attribute, or find her twin. It seems this falcon was a peregrine from foreign country. Bleeding there she stood, fainting from time to time, and loss of blood, till she had nearly fallen from the tree. This beautiful king's daughter, Candace, that on her finger bore the curious ring, by which she understood whatever thing birds in their language said, and which could teach her how to answer in their natural speech. had understood the words the falcon said. The pity of it almost struck her dead. Up to the tree she hastened at her cries, and looking with compassion in her eyes, held out her lap toward it, knowing well the bird was like to faint, and if she fell, for lack of blood, she would be there at hand. Below the branches long she seemed to stand and wait, and then at last began to talk, as you shall hear, and thus address the hawk. "What is the cause, if you are free to tell, that puts you to the furious pain of hell?" said Candace to the poor bird above. "Is it for grief in death, or loss of love? For, as I think, these have the greatest part among the sorrows of the noble heart. Other misfortunes one may well condemn. The way is opened for avenging them, so that it must be either love or loss that is occasion for your cruel cross. For none I see has hunted you today. God's love, have pity on yourself, or say how I can help. Neither east nor west was ever bird or beast so sore distressed that ever I saw, or in such piteous plight. It kills my heart to witness such a sight. I feel such great compassion. Come to me, come down for the love of God, and leave the tree. For I am the daughter of a king. If I knew verily the cause and spring of your misfortunes, were it in my power, I would make all things well this very hour. Great God of nature, help me so to do. I shall find herbs enough and salves for you to heal your wounds, and quickly if you will." The falcon gave a shriek more piteous still than any yet, and fell to earth. She lay stone still, for she had fainted, dead away. Till lifted up by Candace and taken into her lap, the bird began to waken, and being recovered had the strength to talk, answering in the language of a hawk. "That pity is swift to course in noble heart, feeling the likeness of another's smart, is daily proved, as any one can see, both by experience and authority. For gentleness of birth and breeding shows itself in gentleness. You feel my woes, as I can see, and sure it is a fashion well fitting to a princess to show compassion, as you have done, my lovely Candace, in true and womanly benignity. The nature planted in your disposition, and in no hope to better my condition, but to obey your generosity, also that others may be warned by me, as lions may take warning when a pup is punished. I will therefore take it up and make a full confession of my woe, while yet there is the time before I go." And ever while the falcon said her say, the other wept as she would melt away, until the falcon bade her to be still, and sighing spoke according to her will. "Where I was bred, alas the cruel day, and fostered in a rock of marble gray, so tenderly that nothing troubled me, I never knew the word adversity, till I could wing aloft into the sky. There was a tercelet that lived near by, who seemed very well of gentle breeding, yet he was filled with treachery exceeding. In all that's false he wore the humble cloak and colour of true faith in all he spoke, and eagerness to please me and to serve. Who could think such a hawk had power to swerve? Dyed in the grain they were, those treacherous powers, just as a serpent hides itself in flowers. Just so this god of love, this hypocrite, kept up all ceremonious obligations, the sweet observances and protestations that make the music of a gentle love, but as a sepulchre is white above the rotting corpse within, as we are told, just so this hypocrite blew hot and cold, and in this way pursued his treacherous bent. None knew, unless the devil, what he meant. So long I heard his weeping and complaining, so long beheld the service he was feigning, my heart too foolish pitiful to sound him, all innocent of the treachery that crowned him, fearing his death, for so it seemed to me, believed his oaths, believed him trustworthy, and granted him my love on this occasion, that my good name, my honor, and position in public and in private held no hurt, that is to say, according to desert. In him my heart, and through him, in him my heart and thought were his forever, but otherwise God knows, and he knew never. I took his heart, exchanging it for mine. How true the saying in the ancient line, thieves' thoughts are not the thoughts of honest men, for seeing things had gone so far by then, that I had fully granted him my love in such a way as I have told above, and had as freely given my heart as he had sworn his own was given up to me. Straightway this tiger with his double heart fell on his knees and played the humble part with such devout and bashful reverence. He seemed a noble lover, one whose sense was ravished. One would think, for very joy, not Jason, no, nor Paris, Prince of Troy. Did I say Jason? Sure, no other man, since Lamech who first began, so it is said, the game of loving two, has ever, since the world itself was new, thought or contrived the 20,000th part of counterfeited sophistry and art, as did my love, none fit to tie his shoe where there was double-faced deceit to do, not one to pay the thanks he paid to me, and yet his manner was a heaven to see, for any woman, be she ne'er the wise, painted and trim and barbered to the eyes, both in his words and in his countenance. I loved him then for his obedient glance, and for the truth I judged was in his heart, so that at any time he felt the smart of pain, were it so little as a breath. And I was told, it seemed, the twist of death tore at my heart, and so it grew to this: my will became the instrument of his. That is to say, my will obeyed his mood in everything, as far as reason would, within the bounds of honor. Nearer, nearer, we grew together, none so dear, none dearer than he, God knows, and none shall ever be. This lasted for 2 years perhaps, or 3, and I supposed nothing of him but good. But at its final ending thus it stood: as fortune willed, he had to leave the land in which I lived. Ah, never make demand of what I felt in sorrow. Ah, never make demand of what I felt in sorrow. Ask no question, I cannot picture it, for no suggestion would paint the truth. But this I boldly say, I knew the pain of death that fatal day. Such was my grief because he had to go. He took his leave with such a world of woe, so sorrowfully, that I felt assured his feelings were no less than I endured. Hearing him speak, seeing his change of hue, I was so certain he was wholly true, so certain he would come to me again, and very soon, if ever truth were plain. And there were reasons too for him to go, reasons of honor. It is often so. I made a virtue of necessity, and took it well, knowing it had to be. I sought to hide my sorrow, as in fitness I should, and took his hand, St. John my witness, and said, Lo, I am yours, and though we sever, be such as I have been, and shall be ever. When he replied, I need not now rehearse. What he replied, I need not now rehearse, for who could have said it better, or done worse? Yes, what he said was well enough, and soon the thing was done. Ah, long should you be spoon when supping with the devil, so they say.